it's like been there, done that, and we hardly pay attention. So I think trying to train this muscle of paying attention also starts with our ability to take risks, to be able to, I don't know, to view the ordinary as extraordinary in a way. So we can do that by maximizing, as I mentioned, our chance opportunities, by trying out new things we haven't done before, and by being willing to get lost sometimes.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernie Beitman, getting to more and more, and get the identity of Dr. Coincidence, since I've got another book coming out, which I hope will be titled The Adventures of Dr. Coincidence. My current book is Meaningful Coincidences: How and Why Synchronicity and Serendipity Happen. And please like our podcast, subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done that already. Write me some comments. I'd like to respond to them about this or other podcast episodes that we've had. And please help us continue the mission of getting synchronicity awareness out into the general public, because that's what we're trying to be able to do. Useful, but you got to start with noticing them. Well, our guest today is one of the best researchers, in my mind, in synchronicity. And she has a lot to be able to tell us about how synchronicity and well-being seem to operate together. So her name is Pninit Russo-Netzer. She's a senior lecturer and research of the head of education department and the head of the Resilience and Optimal Development Lab at Achva Academic College in Israel. She is also the head of the Compass Institute for the Study and Application of Meaning in Life. Meaning in life. Oh, and where'd she get that idea? Well, when you talk about meaning in life, you're talking about the, the man's search for meaning, the man who developed logotherapy, and she's continuing the look at how we find meaning in life and the value of it. She does meaning oriented psychotherapy is known as logotherapy, and she does that at training at Tel Aviv University. She's published academic articles and chapters and is the author, co-editor of on the topics of meaning in life, positive psychology, existential psychology, positive growth, positive change, and growth. Dr. Russo-Netzer serves as academic advisor and consultant to both academic and non-academic institutions worldwide, including the World Trade Center. That's work she's been doing after 9/11 and resilience and responses to that 9/11 attack. She is the recipient of the International Positive Psychology Association Spirituality and Meaning Researcher Award. Thank you, Pninit, for being back here with me.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you.
Well,
Fun.
good. That makes two of us happy to be together. So
Yeah.
tell us about you and synchronicity these days. What's going on with you personally in synchronicity?
Yeah. So I think when I think of synchronicity, I think of a very, even ancient feeling of there's something bigger than ourselves, that we're all connected in a way. It's a sense of interconnected. And I've been fascinating with this idea of synchronicity ever since I can remember. I always felt that there must be more than that, even as a young child, I think. And those meaningful moments, even sacred moments, I call synchronicity moments sacred moments. I feel they're like a glimpse into a crack, even in our regular reality, into a wider and deeper dimension of life, of something that it's beyond that what meets the eye. And this is something I always wanted to explore, but for years in within the academia, I've been hearing the usual question, how can you measure such a thing? It's not scientific, it's off limits. And this kind of these remarks kind of made me rethink the beautiful quote by Albert Einstein. He said that the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. He said it's the source of all true art and science. So for me, science and arts and nature, it all starts with the mysterious. But we all too often, throw that away, and we don't give it, especially in our world today with AI and the screens and social media, we don't pause to really immerse ourselves within the mysterious. So going back to your question, I think synchronicity moments, they happen all the time. It's all around us. It's for me, it's an everyday phenomenon, it's an everyday experience, but it's up to us to be curious. We discussed curiosity a little bit earlier, and we need eyes to see that. We need our hearts to be open and our minds to be open to pay attention, or we can ignore that. We can just throw that away and say, oh, this is just a coincidence. So I think this is the way I experienced that. And for me, there are all of those ordinary moments, ordinary experiences where I can, go with a question in my mind or something I struggle with, and then I can open a radio and hear a song and there's an answer. And I can see a sign in the street and there's an answer. Or there's a dialogue with life. It's something that I feel it, or someone random can, come up on the street and say something, and I can open a book and there's a sentence or a poem. So I think that life, speaks to us all the time. And this is something that's fascinating for me to explore.
Uh, could you tell us what you mean by life speaking to you? I mean, that's a metaphor. It's not like that. And it comes in forms of symbols, the song on the radio,
Mhm,
that like I was talking with somebody about how she needed respect, and that's
mhm,
why she's going to China to get respect. And then
mhm.
Aretha Franklin's song "Respect" comes on the radio.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that's part of the fun. There's a mirroring that
Yeah.
that life seems to happen around us if we're paying attention to it. So what you just described was a form of coincidence that is common, to mirror it. Um, is how so I'm just trying to translate what you're saying by what you mean by the life talks to you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a beautiful quote by Viktor Frankl. He said that in any moment there's a potential for meaning, the meaning of the moment. It's like a radio waves, he said. But we need a radio to get that. I mean, it happens all the time, but we need some kind of sensitivity of hearing the call of life. Life calls to us. He say that it's not what we expect from life, it's what life expects from us. Even in the toughest situations, there's always a call for meaning. So this is what I mean by listening to the signs. It can be a goosebumps. It can be, as you said, a radio song. And going back to your example, beautiful example on music, this is a study that we're doing now in my lab. When we study music and the way that for so many people it gives them a sense of meaning, even in the darkest times or the best times, it's a big sign for people. I call that the soundtrack of our lives because we can all of us can relate to music in different, pathways and forks in the roads and, different paths, or, you know, meaningful people that we've met. So I think music is some kind of a sacred channel to those kind of dialogue with life. So it's
Well, I was laughing about the soundtrack of our life because
that's
because that suggests each of our lives could be viewed as a movie, or
anyway.
well, that's what you just said. The soundtrack of our life. The soundtracks are usually with movies,
I know.
so there's this music playing in the
Mhm.
background for all of us. And sometimes you're more caught up in what's happening in front of you, the person you're relating to or what you're working on, and you can't hear the music because you don't have your radio on or you're not don't have your iPods on and trying to listen to something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And you don't see the mysterious anymore. You don't listen to the tune or the lyrics, and you feel disconnected. And I think when you hear the music, and sometimes we can hear the music, in our souls, in our hearts, and something is opening up. The same goes with nature. I can even, if it's okay, I can share a little story. Think I'm not sure if I mentioned that last time we met, but there was an ordinary experience I've had in one of my travels while I was waiting in a train station in Europe. I saw a homeless person sitting aside his backpack and starting to play the piano that was, just standing there in the mall in the train station. And he played so beautifully that I had to stop everything and put my phone aside. We're always right, not connected with life, but it was so beautiful. I had to really put that aside and truly listen. And then I saw an elderly woman that was walking by. She heard the beautiful music like I did, and she approached him. And I stood close enough to see them and to see the magic. It was a magical moment between them when their eyes met. And she said to him that this melody, this music, you made me, you reminded me of the music. She said it reminded her of her late father, that she was thinking about him when she heard the music. And they both had tears in their eyes, something a strong connection in this beautiful moment. And I was so moved. I took a picture of those, I captured this beautiful magical moment. And then I looked up and I saw a sign that was just behind them that I didn't see before this moment. And the sign said, brighten up someone's day. I took a picture of that too. And it was so powerful and meaningful coincidence because for me, again, it was not just me and the sign and me and those two people. It was all of that together, the gestalt, the all of the sum of the different parts, because he brightened up her day in that moment. And this whole world encapsulated in this small moment in time. I could have missed that moment if I wasn't curious, if I wasn't open, if I wasn't receptive to what's going on. And I think this is a little example of it. Doesn't have to be a transcendent moment or a spiritual moment or something bigger than life moment. It could be, but these are the small moments in life where life speaks to us, and we need to listen.
I think we're going to keep talking about what you mean by life speaks to us because I think it's an important question. I
Yeah.
was walking along the river. I was walking along the river here in Charlottesville several months ago, and I was practicing a song "Somewhere Over the Rainbow"
Wow.
that I was going to sing as part of the introduction to a talk on synchronicity that I was giving here in Charlottesville with a friend of mine. Uh, and so I was singing it and practicing it, and then this woman came along with her dog, and I said, "I'm practicing this song. Can I sing it with you? Because it's fun to have an audience." So I sang the "Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me," and the rest of it, and she started crying.
Wow.
And I said, and then she said, I needed that. It turned out she was in Charlottesville from Louisiana because her son had some form of cancer and she was visiting him. The, these soundtracks can appear out of who knows how, intuition, uh, people coming together, just like the woman and the guy playing the piano, because she made his life, she made his day with that uh, eye contact thing. That eye contact's really, really important part of all this. because
Yeah.
it makes the moment. And you made the eye contact with, well, you made your eye contacted their eye contacted. I mean, it's all these beautiful moments that are available to us. You don't have to go to a movie for it, because what we're talking about here, Pninit, is that life can be a movie,
Yeah,
and
totally.
there's a soundtrack of vibrations going on around us that are forms of music, because everything is energy and vibration, and we are immersed in it, and we can tune into it, and that's what you were able to do.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that was a really when we feel an urge or something, it also a little story that during this difficult time here, I felt a need to post a quote that, I came up at night when I dreamed. I there was a quote that instead of, fighting the darkness, you need to increase the light. There's a saying in Hebrew. And I felt a strong need to post that, just to write that. And I got a WhatsApp message from a colleague of mine that I haven't heard from in years, and she wrote to me, "Oh my God, I have chills all over my body. Oh my God, I can't believe that my son was just killed in the her son was in the army, and he just killed a few days ago, and these were his last words that he wrote down, those words, and you just posted that, and I felt a need to just write to you. Oh my God, I can't believe the coincidence. But as you mentioned, it's not something that I mean, maybe another person said, okay, you posted that, and but the connection between a sense of, I felt compelled to write that, to put that out there. As you said, you felt compelled to sing that. You haven't done that to impact this woman, but for her, it gave her a sense of comfort, of a sense of being maybe heard or seen. So I don't know why it made me reminded of those little moments when we can light up another person's life.
Because they're
Um,
very similar, and they're mirrors
yeah.
of the emotional life of the people we're talking to. They're mirrors, and this mirroring, uh, in the physics I'm reading about, is sometimes called symmetry, where
Mm.
there's a doppelganger, a double goer of somebody that's like what the other thing is. So this mirroring seems to be of interest to you. I mean, I'm seeing a pattern of interest in mirroring, uh, it's a subset of coincidence. It's not the only form, but it's the form. It's a common one of having something in your mind being mirrored outside, and as a science interest in mathematics, I get to wonder about how similar is similar. How do you measure
Mhm.
the similarity between the two events? But that's another question. The similarity comes out of the subjective response of the person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to get to the question about your interest in the mirroring kind of coincidence or synchronicity, if that's a reasonable question.
What do you mean by mirroring? I mean, the way that uh, can
That
you give
the
yeah.
thing Everything we've talked about uh,
Yeah.
is a form of mirroring. the that the thing outside mirror, like
Yeah.
the good example is like, turn away from the darkness and look into the light.
Yeah.
That's a very direct mirror. You wrote it, and that was the last thing her son wrote. So that's one to one
Yeah.
correlation between the two.
Yeah.
The woman at the train station being reminded of her father, uh, that was a form of mirroring by the music. The music and the father were related. It wasn't direct like the light one was. It's still an analog. It's similar enough to remind her of that. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm making sense this way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You made me. You make you're making me think of all of that in a new way. So it's really it's it's something that I need to, delve more into it. But I think in a way it feels like, connecting the dots between the inner and eternal and external, between, as you said, mirroring in a way that something new is being created in those connection, in this reflection, maybe. Um,
Yeah, I think that's maybe it's something you might think, you might wonder about, and it's still something I'm wondering about. But one other thing I wonder about, it gets a little funny to say, but I wonder about the meaning of meaning.
hmm,
You probably know a book from 1922 called The Meaning of Meaning. It was a book that's impossible for me to read. It's mostly like algebraic formulas, and I couldn't understand, but I love the title. So
yeah.
I'd like to ask you, since you study meaning and you follow after Viktor Frankl and his search for meaning, and that's got a long tradition in Judaism, and well as other places, is this: what is meaning? What is meaning to you? What is the meaning of meaning to you?
Ooh. Um, well, I think it starts with the idea of self-transcendence. It's always transcends itself. It's like the meaning of the table. It's always beyond the word table, or I mean, it's something that transcends itself. But we now know that meaning is like a integration between the idea of making sense, which is the more cognitive meaning of meaning. I mean, feeling that there's some kind of a coherent whole between our past, present, and future. We feel that our life dots are connected in some way. There's a narrative, that's something that guides us. And there's the more motivational aspect of meaning, which is the what for. Why am I waking up in the morning? Do my life have sense of direction, a purpose, a mission? And there's the sense of mattering or significance, which is the feeling that my life, my existence matters. I mean that I add, significance to life, and my life is significant. That I'm not transparent. That there's yeah, that I make a difference, I would say. And we can see that many even in schools, when children feel that they don't matter, that they're not meaningful, or worker in organization or within relationships, when we don't feel that we matter, people are willing to do a lot, even to go out to demonstrations. And even the idea of Black Lives Matter is mattering. I mean, all of those, being able to go out to the streets and protest, or live relationships, or live um, highly paid organizations, and work because I feel that I don't matter. This is something that people cannot tolerate for long. So we cannot tolerate the idea that our life are insignificant, that they don't go anywhere, that the lack of purpose, and that there is a kind of significant way of being in a coherent whole. So all of these together um, form a sense of meaning in our lives. And this is, of course, there's much more than what I just shared, but I think that having meaningful coincidence, when people find meaning, they detect meaning. This is part of our model, the REM model, which means that we're receptive to these kind of events. We make sense of them. We detect meaning. And these are like emotion evoking events. Then we feel that our lives are guided and directed in a way that, unfolded as a journey with some kind of, uncertainty, serendipity, but still a sense of our, contributing to our identity, to our sense of narrative, to our sense of purpose, and our significance. So I think this is kind of a corresponding idea of I don't know if it makes sense, but it's a validating experience when we find meaning in these kind of experiences.
That's a wonderful description of the meaning of meaning. I've asked it many times, and uh, you've you've summarized And what you spent the most time on, as you were talking about this, is purpose, life purpose, a sense of having a meaningful purpose. I mean, it's something that draws you into the future, and
Mhm.
that correlating with that is that your life matters somehow, which maybe means matters to other people. It could be just that you're needed by someone, or you're loved by someone, or
Yeah,
you love someone, and that's a feeling of meaning too.
yeah.
Um,
Or a mission. You're dedicated to something beyond yourself. Can be a
yeah,
mission, can be someone, can be a loved one. And I think when you have a validating experience of these kind of meaningful coincidence, it gives a sense of yeah, validating experience for all three components of meaning. The cognitive one of making sense. I feel, children from a young age, they're asking why. So we want to make sense of our lives. We don't want it to feel random. We're sticking for coherence in our lives. Um, and of course, stability and a sense of control and a sense of, we want to make sense of the picture in a way. Uh, but also we want to feel that our lives are directed, that we have a sense of why wake up in the morning. We need something, some kind of a goal, some kind of a purpose, a valuable purpose. And we need to feel that our existence matters to someone, to the universe, to something. So I think going back to synchronicity experiences, they give a sense of validation to all three components. So this is why they're sometimes feel so meaningful.
and you can say this from having done the research in this area.
Yeah, yeah,
And these are some of the conclusions that you have reached about meaning and synchronicity. That synchronicity um, increases one's sense of well-being.
right,
That's
right.
a
Yeah.
very important finding of yours, which we kind of all kind of know, but you've got data to suggest that you can feel better in life if you're paying attention to synchronicity most of the time, except for some people who are just overwhelmed by them, and that's no fun for them. So there's very few things that are always everything, but that's
Yeah,
a problem. But could you tell us more about your research and what you have found about synchronicity, meaning, and
yeah.
the well-being of life?
Yeah. So we started, we wanted to do a systematic, me and Dr. Tamar Itzikson, we've done kind of a journey, I would say, of systematic exploration of synchronicity. We started bottom up with phenomenological exploration. We explored in-depth interviews with people to understand ordinary people, not just, as we know, young work in therapy or in career, the planned happenstance. We wanted to see everyday people, the everyday experience of synchronicity. And we found the REM model, which I before that explained, the receptivity, emotion evoking experience, and meaning detecting. And this,
Go slow, say that more slowly, please. It's something
yeah,
that's
sure.
so familiar to you.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so this model was based on the qualitative study of in-depth interview with people. And what we found that I would say the condition to find the precondition to experience synchronicity moments are responsiveness. This is the R, attentiveness, exploration, curiosity, attunement to novel experiences, which leads to openness to new opportunities. So this is the first part of the model: intention, attention, receptivity. The E in the model, the I would say the next step or the next stage is emotion evoking event. So my curiosity or intention meets, encounters an internal or external emotion evoking events. It can be physical signs, as we talked earlier, like goosebumps or becoming extremely ill. It can be significant messages from songs, external manifestations. It can be nature, it can be social encounters or interactions. And then once we're open and, attuned to the experience, and this is a very strong emotion evoking event, we make sense of it. We detect meaning. By connecting the coincidental events to personal narrative and history, the participants felt that their lives were guided and directed. There's kind of a guidance to their lives. There's kind of a meaning to this event. And this was the first stage on the systematic exploration. And then we moved on and we wanted to understand who are the individuals who experience synchronicity.
I'm gonna interrupt just a second. We want to go
Sure, sure.
to who are the people to your next phase, but
Yeah.
what you just were talking about was REM, responsiveness, which includes curiosity, attentiveness, intention to really look. The E for emotionally evoking events, both emotion in you, and somehow the event is also emotionally laden, and they come together. And
Yeah.
then look for meaning, which is connecting it to your own personal narrative. Now, I'm struck by the coincidence of REM also standing for rapid eye movement, uh,
Yeah.
which is the stage of sleep in which we dream. And so synchronicity is often sometimes connected to dream states because they're often like dreams because they have metaphors and analogies and symbols that seem to be unrelated, but we can relate them just like we can do with dreams, and that they're hard to remember just like dreams are hard to remember. That's why you have to write them down. So here
Right.
you are describing the qualitative aspects of synchronicity awareness, the involvement with synchronicity, and it reminds me of REM sleep and reminds me of dreams.
Wow. See, amazing. Once, wow, wow. I didn't even think about that before. Yeah, you're right. Wow. So I think this is something that suggests there's kind of a dynamic cycle that, may we call that a learned meaningfulness. I mean, rather than ignoring or rejecting the unexpected triggers, we can be more open, because once we're open and we make sense of it, we become more open the next time and next. I mean, it's kind of a reinforcing cycle that increases our awareness to our next events. And as I mentioned, this opened up our next step, which was to validate a tool to assess individual differences in synchronicity awareness, as you mentioned earlier, building on this model of the REM or sleep. And it was comprised of two subscales. It was called SAMD, which means synchronicity awareness and meaning detecting scale. So one subscale was the synchronicity awareness. How aware am I to different synchronicity events and experiences? And the second subscale was about making sense of that. I mean, they are not the same. And what we found even in a subsequent study that I will talk about maybe later, is that this phenomenon is very frequent. Many people experience synchronicity experiences, whether they are secular or religious. There are no differences between ultra-religious people. We also explore that. The subjective experience is different. The qualitative experience, the way they describe that, is different. For example, for ultra-religious people, they call that personal providence. They feel that they have a connection with God and everything happens for a reason. For a secular person, it can be, it's interesting. It's something, it can be the universe, it's spiritual, it's something that makes me, get better decisions about something I'm struggling with. So the interpretations are different, but the frequency, which we were really surprised about, that most people experience that on almost a daily basis or a weekly basis. We had almost none that said, I've never experienced that, which is really surprising. And the second aim of the study was to understand, as you mentioned, the effect on our well-being. So what we found other than the vast majority of people reported experiencing at least one synchronicity event, that what we found that synchronicity awareness and meaning detecting are positively associated with openness to experience from the big five and tolerance for ambiguity. So people who are high in synchronicity awareness are more open to experience and more tolerant to ambiguity, to uncertainty. But we also found that individuals who are searching for meaning, or open to search for meaning in their lives, are more open to synchronicity events and are more, they manage to make sense of them. They also experience more meaning and more optimism towards the future, which eventually contributes to greater life satisfaction. So this is something that was really, again, was replicated in a follow-up study. But I want to mention just a little, I know you want to ask something, but I just want to mention that we also find a dark side to this.
Let's wait for the dark side for a minute.
Let's say, wait,
Let's
yeah,
wait
okay,
for the dark side for a minute.
yeah, okay.
Because the searching for meaning as a correlate with increased synchronicity experiences is
Yeah.
what my research came up with also. That's similar. We found that people who describe themselves as religious also saw more synchronicity. So there's a little bit of a difference in
Mhm.
those two. But the search for meaning part of it, not just there is meaning in life, the search for meaning in life is a very important part of all of this because you have an openness to
Mhm.
trying to figure out what's going on around you.
Yeah,
And you mentioned the big five. A lot of people might not know what the big five
right.
is. So would you please explain how the big five correlated with your research?
Yeah, the big five is like the personality. Maybe I think you're the real expert for personality. Maybe you want to explain that very briefly. Um,
These are personality variables. We use them too in our
yeah,
study.
yeah.
Uh, and I'm not sure I remember all of them, but I think there's one of them was like something like satisfaction. That's not the right word, but everything's okay kind of thing. People who
Uh,
were everything's okay people didn't see as many synchronicities.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and
Yeah,
that's
we
one of
find
the
that.
big five. And so high emotion is another one. And we saw correlates between high emotion and at least as it was recorded by the students and seeing more synchronicities.
Mhm.
I don't remember the other ones.
Yeah, so I think there's a being neurotic, and there's the consciousness being very high in uh, consciousness.
Conscientiousness.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
exactly.
let's leave those alone because some of them don't correlate very well. But just so that everybody knows that the big five in psychology are these five variables, personality variables that are almost you have to use when you're doing some forms of psychological
Yeah,
research.
yeah,
So
you're right.
we were getting to the dark side. Please tell us about the dark side.
Yeah. So I think the dark side, I mean, it was I wouldn't say surprising because we know too much sugar is I mean, it's important to also see, the boundaries to any phenomenon. But we also found correlations with depression. And I think it also goes back to I think your studies that it may be possible that overinterpretation or excessive rumination, everything is a sign, those people who have to wear a certain shirt or, go out to the street with, the right foot first, or if it falls down, then it means that I'm not supposed to, then it becomes something that can hurt our or harm our well-being. So it may suggest that, unregulated explanatory models regarding coincidence experiences may lead to even psychopathology, paranoia, magical thinking. So this is something that I think it's remaining question to explore. And this is something that we're exploring now. We've been exploring synchronicity awareness and the character strengths. I don't know if our listeners know, the VIA Institute of the 24 character strengths. So we wanted to know what are the character strengths that predict or mediate synchronicity and well-being. And also we've done research, I will speak about that very briefly, about mindfulness and the SAMD. So to understand for some people, they're very related intuitively, it sounds like, okay, being mindful that I'm open and I can experience synchronicity. But what we found that they do share different, very similar characteristics, but our results revealed that synchronicity awareness are pretty different than mindfulness. So what we found, we tried different scales of mindfulness and the SAMD. We found that people with higher synchronicity awareness were more sensitive to inner sensations as opposed to, mindfulness. And they are more novelty thinking and more engaged in their actions. So they're more active. They're acting upon those experiences. So mindfulness can get you to the here and now, but synchronicity awareness or synchronicity experiences kind of motivate you to do something about that. I mean, it gets you out there again. It's not just bringing you inside. It's like a dialogue, as we mentioned earlier, between the internal and external, which was for me very interesting to see.
Well, that's very compelling because there's I thought there's research and I've got references that mindfulness meditation increases synchronicity experiences. So,
Yeah,
and so, but so
they
you,
are correlated. Yeah, they are correlated, but there are different constructs.
well, let's start with that they're correlated because mindfulness does get you tuned into your inner states. But
Yeah,
then the next step is connect your inner state to what's outside of you. And
right.
so mindfulness is not 100% going to increase your synchronicity experiences. There's got to be another step in there. If you're
Exactly.
mindful, then you have to be tuned in to your environment to be able to then connect what's inside with what's outside.
Exactly. There is something beyond. I mean, there's something internal that kind of provokes, as we mentioned. There's you think of a song, you think of something that's internal, and then you go out to the world, but it's like a dynamic movement, and you go into your inwards again, and then outwards again. So it's not just being with kind of eyes shut mindfulness in a cave or somewhere on a mountain and I'm all within myself. It's, as we mentioned, meaning is self-transcendence. It's going out to the world. It's beyond myself. It's something that's engaging with the world. It's a dialogue with the world. So I think
Meaning
it's,
meaning comes from a dialogue with the world. I mean, I can go with that as the speaking with what's around us, speaking to the world around us, how the world speaks to us. But I can do dialogue because it's not just it's speaking to me. It's there's a dialogue. There's an interchange between me and the outside. That's what I think missing in the earlier the world speaks to me. No, I got to be listening and I got to be responding to it. So it's
yeah,
this iterative process that's so important going back and forth. I
exactly.
like I love the way you separate out the meditation or the mindfulness because that's what good research does is separate out things, make finer distinctions. And so
Yeah,
you just made a fine distinction. Mindfulness will increase. That's correlated with more mindfulness, more correlation. But how did you figure out? How did you separate out? I'm a mindfulness person from I'm a synchronicity person. How did you do that? You described it, but I don't get it.
yeah. It's we've done we've checked both of them. I mean, different scales of synchronicity, our scale, but different scales of mindfulness. And we wanted to see how they correlate the way, is it like you said, is it distinguished construct? And I think what we know now that it can, as we mentioned, it's not just top down process. It's also a bottom up process. So, and of course, we need more research to replicate that and to understand what it means, how to even in terms of interventions, how we can help people be more attuned, not just to their inner selves, but also top down, bottom up perception of being attuned to their own experiences, but also to what's going on outside. And I think the impact is dual. I mean, we impact the world and the world impacts us. This is something that sometimes we ignore that. We say, okay, now I'm concentrated, I'm the here and now, and then, I'm a free agent. But no, life is, it's a force that goes in both directions. So I think this is something that we need to better understand what happens when we're more open, and we can even peel off different, for some people, different defenses or different interpretations, and be able to experience even, I would say, every moment as a new moment. And this is something that we can train, as you mentioned, through meditation, but it's not enough. This is something that we need to go
It's
further.
not enough. It helps because you're in the moment.
Yeah,
You're not
definitely.
past or future. So it helps. Mindfulness meditation helps.
Yeah.
What you're heading towards, I am very, very interested in seeing how far along you are in developing training programs to increase synchronicity awareness in people.
Yeah. So this is something that started as, in different classes and workshops. I'm asking people to share their stories, to journal about that, to take a picture, which is something that I really love. Take a picture of something that's, it kind of signifies or captures your experience or synchronicity experience. And again, we see amazing. I think you're doing the same, collecting, people's stories and enable them to share. There's something about sharing that it becomes a fuller and deeper and broader narrative. It becomes something that even when I'm hearing myself talking about that, just hearing myself talking about that, it connects the dots. Just as we've done earlier when you helped me think about that in a new way. So it kind of broaden our perspective, and then we ask questions about that, what we call in logotherapy Socratic questions, like self-discovery questions, meaning detecting questions. Like we're meaning detectives, we're looking for meaning clues in those stories. So we can ask, what does it mean to you? What is the role of this experience for you? What is your main takeaway, personal insight? What are you going to do different with that? Knowledge now. Um, so there's so many things that we can take from that in organizations. We can also take in education. This is one of the things I believe, and I work a lot with education too. I think everything starts with education, and young children are very open to synchronicity experiences. They're really open to the big questions in life, to wisdom, to wonder. And they're asking about God, about death, about spirituality, about life. But sometimes, as adults, as parents, as educators, we're closing that, we say, because we're asking why, because I said that, because I said so, and that's it, story closed. So this is something about the curiosity, about the mysterious, that I think we need to, I would say, unfold and make it. You said something very beautiful in the beginning of our talk, and you mentioned the adventures of Dr. Synchronicity, right? And I think life is an adventure. It's a puzzle. It's not a puzzle to be solved or a problem to be solved. It's something. It's a mystery to live in a way. And this is something that through these moments we can have a glimpse into the potentiality, into what can happen and the different pathways that our life can take. And we also found that in a different line of studies that we've done with transformative life experiences, both from trauma or peak experiences. And what we saw that in those glimpses of potentiality, once everything is, broken down, crumbling down, your sense of ordinary life, of, meaning in life, through trauma has been collapsed, right? You need to, there's acute awareness to sensations, to the possibilities, right? You can be a different person in this choice, in this moment. And I think this is something that we can utilize and help people become more aware of those moments in everyday life, and to be able not to just be in wonder and awe. They're really interesting and they're thought provoking, and be in, it sometimes shake you and wake you up. But beyond that, we need to be researchers in our own lives, trying to make sense of them and to see their gifts that are unwrapped in those moments, because they are messages, in a way, to live a life that's fuller, that deeper. Um, so I think this is something I would like to create more interventions in, as I mentioned, organizations, education, therapy, uh, different settings with different with verse samples and populations, and across the lifespan, because I think this is kind of gifts that life has given to us, going back to young when we have eyes to see. So this is something that we want to train people to be aware of, I would say more.
Train people. You spent a lot of the time talking about training people as how to understand meaning. At least that's the way I heard, or how to look for meaning. The term meaning detective
Yeah.
is what seemed to be a major part of your training people
Mhm.
into synchronicity. That it's part of logotherapy. It's Viktor Frankl's legacy is how to find meaning, and you're developing that more clearly and further. What I'm kind of like, okay, there's the meaning of meaning. There's a lot of so I'm relevant. How does it help my life narrative? I can get it down to like simple, for me, practical things, which practical is what you're talking about too. But okay, so what does it mean to me? What does it mean about the nature of reality? Those are the two things
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
I get to as meaning. And that are common questions that synchronicity brings in. So that's mine. But what I'm more curious about is how you get people sensitive to finding the 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 situation to look for meaning. Yeah, if you're looking for meaning, that helps increase synchronicity. That's there. But
Yeah.
the REM model is what you're talking about. How do you help people become more responsive and curious to what's around them? Uh, how do you get them to detect the emotional events around them? These are more descriptive. What I found, what you added to what I think about is tell your stories to other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Add photographs of some of your coincidences that you can photograph, as you did with the person playing the piano and the woman coming in and the sign behind.
Yeah.
The photographs just highlight. We have this coincidence cafe where we people tell each other coincidence stories with just that intent. The idea of being able to tell each other coincidence stories is key to what I think helps get people more sensitive to them. And,
Exactly.
and and you've said that. And so I'm wondering what else your research or your own experience tells you
Mhm.
besides becoming a meaning detective and besides just being tuned in to the idea that they exist.
Yeah.
What else?
I think
By telling people to tell each other stories. So I've
yeah.
got those two: tell stories, meaning detective. How else do you help people increase their synchronicities?
Yeah, I think also maximizing chance opportunities. This is also something.
Ah,
Uh-huh.
explain that.
uh, Yeah, there's another line of research that I've done with Professor Jeff Cohen from Stanford. We've done research on comfort zone, which was really surprising to me to see. There's no empirical study on comfort zone. I mean, we all tell people in popular media or therapy or I don't know coaching go out from your comfort zone, expand your comfort zone. But what is a comfort zone? Is it the same for me and you? So what we found that people were willing, and we did an intervention and we followed them and we gave them a simple instruction. Just choose something which is for you, the way you describe it, the way you understand what expanding your comfort zone. And I say that expanding and not going out of, because a comfort zone is also important. But knowing what is for me expanding my comfort zone enables me to experiment with new tastes, new people, new places, new ideas. So it becomes some flexible mindset of being able to, encounter life from a deeper perspective and a broader perspective. So this is maximizing our chance opportunities, is maximizing the, I would say, the possibilities of being lucky, of finding meaningful coincidence, of expanding the way I understand myself, the way I understand life. Because if I'm going in the same direction, the same pathway, then I'm almost don't know anywhere else, to better understand myself. So I think even, I would maybe give an exercise that I'm doing with myself. It's like behaving once a month, I'm behaving like a tourist in my own neighborhood, which is, in when we're a tourist, we're in a mindset of being in an adventure. Everything is interesting, everything is, exciting. Every old building looks like a mystery. And we're more willing to talk with strangers in the train or smile to different, people in the street. And we're willing to get lost because there's a beautiful saying, lose yourself to find yourself. We're willing to surrender to the experience. But in our everyday life, everything is already known and being explored. And it's like been there, done that, and we hardly pay attention. So I think trying to train this muscle of paying attention also starts with our ability to take risks, to be able to I don't know, to view the ordinary as extraordinary in a way. So we can do that by maximizing, as I mentioned, our chance opportunities, by trying out new things we haven't done before, and by being willing to get lost sometimes. I mean, it can be driving in a new way, in a new road, can be trying out new taste. It's something that can be a force of life, of encountering life from a different perspective. So I hope this is maybe another direction that we can explore.
Yeah, all you're doing is confirming ideas that I have had in a more explicit way. Um,
Wow.
the getting lost thing, I used to like to get lost for just that reason. It's just
Mhm.
fun. Uh, and then
Yeah.
and stuff happens. Um, uh, expand your comfort zone is a very general one, but that can include being a tourist in your own place. That is um, that's a good one. And
Well,
try new things. Yeah, that's part of it. The
yeah.
what what I what I found from observation and have just observing it that when your regular reality gets disturbed, um, like stressed, and you use a stress scale to measure degrees of stress. The Holmes Ray scale is the one I was paying attention to. That the 100 in that scale is the death of a spouse.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
there are other deaths and divorce and job loss. Uh, and toward the bottom, about 15 is going on vacation, which is like the tourist thing. And these these alterations in regular reality, which I'm describing as more like they happen or you do it as part of life, you're
Yeah.
making more deliberate uh, this idea, and I use the word quotidian because I like to say it, meaning regular reality. So when you tear the web of quotidian reality,
Mm.
coincidences fly in.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. Wow.
And that's what you're describing. tear the web of your quotidian reality and you'll see more synchronicities.
Wow, I love that, the way you connected the dots so beautifully. Exactly, exactly. And then you have a glimpse into the potential, um, uh, I would say because for me, I think meaningful life is kind of incomplete. There are so many different directions that we can take, like a sliding door phenomena, right? When we kind of disrupt the script that is already we're so used to go every day, and we're willing to surprise ourselves. I think this is all goes back to being able to let life surprise you. This is something
Yeah,
behind it.
and that I now that you're putting into like words for me, more like images. I, this new friend of mine was engaged in different experiences than I was doing in my life was like this. So I just went along and some really, sometimes it was boring and sometimes it was like, wow. So it's not always going to pop with something that's really something, but being willing to like go to stand-up comedy, which she liked to do. She likes to
Mm.
do that on Monday nights. And I'm thinking, and I've got some stories from the adventures of Dr. Coincidences to tell in that setting. And it's something different and meet new people and get something else going. Um, and and well, anyway, I got called. I was sitting in the front row, so the host was trying to get stuff going at the beginning, and he called me up because I was looking at him and I told him my name and Bernie. So I got up there. So I told him I can do Donald Duck talk. I can sing in Donald Duck talk. So I got up there and sang. Look,
Wow, I'm
look at,
impressed.
thank you. I'm practicing it again. I could do that in second grade. I learned it in second grade. Because this kid
Wow.
across the street could do it and he could do it better than I could, but I at least started copying him. And I went to like talent shows at the local movie theater and did that and gotten anyway. That I came in as a came in second on that one. That was in third grade. That was, so these
Wow. Amazing.
trying something different has been what I've liked to do.
Yeah.
I've liked to do that. So you're putting a label on it about why I can write a book titled The Adventures of Dr. Coincidence, because the more I got out of structured environments, I knew this, the more synchronicities happen. And you can see them reflected in the book that when I was in college, they were pretty limited. When I was a resident in psychiatry, every Wednesday night or Thursday night, I was up in San Francisco on Haight Street in the late 60s and just seeing what happened. And there were so many synchronicities that I I, I just had to hold my mind together because there were so many of them. And that's where I learned a lot about synchronicity on Haight
Wow.
Street in the late 60s. This idea you're saying is so important to articulate. And I so much appreciate your doing that because I am now working on some kind of program to help people increase their experiences of synchronicity. And that's part of the reason I was asking. But I think this is very exciting because if I'm going to get this idea out there, and you are too, I mean, you're really dedicated to this synchronicity thing. Um,
Yeah.
we've got to be able to help people increase the frequency. I've stumbled on it because I like adventure and I'm like novelty seeking. So I do that. And it's easy for me to figure to because I seek novelty to come up with stuff. Novelty seeking and what you described are all part of the same thing of uh,
Yeah.
breaking the quotidian reality thing. So I'm just excited hearing you say this, and I'm excited hearing that your research is pointing in a very practical direction.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm excited to hear you saying that. I think so many people, just asking them, when was the last time you did something for the first time? I mean, most of us, we're kind of, especially, as adults, we hardly do anything new. Or, I mean, we even fear of, feeling uncomfortable. And I think this is what, as you mentioned, creates a space for curiosity, for engagement with life, with playing with life, right? As children, we used to play with life. Everything was a game. And as
Everything.
adults, yeah,
And
and
I haven't grown out of that.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
except when I got constricted. But we need to be able to end. And this training program, I hope we'll talk more about, because I'm starting to write something up, a bunch of slides to do that. But we need to have something more structured than just people telling each other the
Yeah,
stories. That's
right,
really useful, but it's only a first step. And
exactly.
how do we train them to be detectives of meaning? Okay. And before that, to break out of their usual ways of doing things, which there are many ways of being able to do that. And that's what
Exactly.
I've gotten from our discussion that I will add to the list of things that I'm putting together.
Great. I would love to talk more because there are so many ways to break up those schemas and the patterns that we used to live. There's also, maybe we'll talk about that in some other time, the overview effect of looking at things from above. It's also something that's kind of
Well,
breaks down.
we didn't get into examining the mystery today.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We really
these are clues to the mystery. That's a key form of meaning, is it's telling us what else is going on around here. Uh,
exactly.
we didn't get to that. But
Yeah.
what I'm getting here, and I never know, I got my ideas up, but I'm getting so that something's happening with me where I'm feeling more the urge to like get it out there. Um,
Mhm.
uh, and the getting out there is mostly synchronicity is good for you, and you've got the data for that to be able to show it. So we don't have to, and it's interesting and it's fun and it's all kinds of things that are positive about it. They can help you, and
Mhm.
that's part of the meaning of it. But what I'm getting towards, and this is kind of part of like me just going with the flow that I am in, but with the purpose, I'm pulled by a future, not by so much the past anymore. And that purpose has to do with getting synchronicity ideas out into the world consciousness. That the one of the best ways to do that is what we just talked about, is how do we train people? So I'm alerting you, Dr. Russo-Netzer, with who I'm just finishing talking with, that we
Yeah,
got to put together something that would be a Zoom conference probably, uh, but some form where we're going to say, hey, you want to have more synchronicities in your life? Come to this thing. We're going to tell you how to increase them. All right.
love that. I love this intention and idea. I'm all in.
All right.
Um,
All right. Well, I'm going to have to say goodbye and go on to the R space, which is the mystery part of this. Um, we're going to be talking about how in this other space that's right here with us now, that's very much now, it's here. We just don't know it, but we are in it. There are symmetries between regular reality and this other reality. And that's why I was doing the mirror thing, because there are
yeah,
mirrors here. And
yeah.
it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative in math, the negative, anyway, that's what I'm going to next. So this has really been a fun day for for me, and they fit
Wow.
together. The idea is because I'm doing something I haven't done before, which is having 3 podcasts in one day, and each of
Amazing.
them, the first one, this one, they're all like very meaningful to me. Doing this odd thing, so it's all part of a string today, and I
I
thank
love
you,
that.
Pninit, for being with me today. We got something going here. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
totally. And now I get the mirroring thing in a total different way. So thank you I mean, that was for me very meaningful string and pattern and connecting the dots. I think you're a connector You're a gifted connector.
Thank you. I'm a Pisces. I can't help it.
Thank you
Shalom,
so much.
shalom, Pninit. It's been a pleasure, and we got to figure out what to do about you, about our country. It's like there's got to be ways out of this, but we'll see.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'll be in
hopefully.
I think we'll be in touch with each other.
I would love to. Thank you
So
so much.
you're welcome. You're very
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This psychosphere is our mental atmosphere, like a hologram of cosmic consciousness.